Sorry for the delay in the start. Welcome everybody. I'm very happy to have you around. We're going to have a look at the FIRE projects. Some of them are 2013 and 2014. We are going to start with Dr. FIRE3a. His project is on groundwater resource monitoring. Viv, the floor is yours, please.
Yes.
So, Viv is a FIRE grantee for the year 2013.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Mauritius. I actually live here, so it's easy for me to come to this meeting. First of all, before I start, I would like to thank very much Afrinic and the FIRE program for giving me this opportunity to, first of all, having completed this project, the funding for all the R&D equipment, etc., and the opportunity to be presenting it to you guys today. So my project is the development of a proof of concept for a low-cost monitoring system for underground water. And maybe just, I know we have 15 minutes, but I thought I'll just give some brief background. There's a lot of water in Africa, and but most of it is actually underground. You have to drill for it, and it's very old aquifers. And the challenge, of course, is to tap that water, but at the same time exploit it in a way which is sustainable, which means that you cannot draw more than the rate at which it's being replenished, because if you drill wells and then you're drawing too much water out of it, at the end of the day, you can imagine that those wells are like big cavities under the earth, and as you empty them, you fill it up with nothing, with air basically, and eventually it collapses and you lose the well. So there is a necessity to manage that resource, and you should be able to regulate the amount of water you're pumping from those wells depending on how much you have in it. So in times of scarcity, you can imagine that you will have water cuts and you would probably pump less than what you have during the rainy season. So the proof of concept really is to devise a system for monitoring that. That would be low cost, because you can imagine that in various countries of Africa, you have wells, in the thousands, in different villages, different places, and actually, if you use conventional monitoring systems, they are expensive, and it is one of the reasons why government find it difficult to find the investment necessary to monitor water on that scale. So the challenge is to try to make it low cost, to make it mobile, so that you can carry it easily and take it to some remote areas. It has to be off the grid, because the areas where you are going to install it, they will not probably have electricity, and definitely no landlines. So we rely a lot on mobile technology and renewable energy, solar energy basically. We capitalize on internet and mobile technologies to make sure that we can drive the costs down, and as much as possible, actually, within the whole project, we have only used open source software. And even the hardware, part of the hardware that we've used is called open source hardware, because the design, the blueprints for manufacturing of those hardware is actually available on the internet. So the objective was to design one groundwater monitoring station. It had to be solar powered. We have to design the data collection. The data collection unit, the telemetry system, which gets the data out of the data logger using the GPRS network. Now it's important that I specify we're using GPRS, not GSM, not 3G, not 4G. Because even in areas where signal is not very good, signal coverage is not very good, we prefer to use the lowest bandwidth possible to make sure that we can actually have a global reach for our systems. The server that we are using to collect those information is a Linux Apache MySQL PHP server. And of course, then there's a website for user access for people involved in water resource management and log in and have access to that data. So in terms of components, we have a submersible sensor. That sensor is connected to an analog digital converter to digitize the data. It's analog signal coming up. It gets stored on the data logger, and then we use a GPRS modems to transmit that data onto the server. Basically, these are the key components of the system, and of course, then we have software that we've developed to integrate the whole system. The open source components, the microcontroller that performs the digitization and sending on the data logger. The software is developed in C. The data controller is based on Linux, the Debian distribution, with our software that we have developed in Python to manage it. As I said, the LAMP server is a Linux-based server. And although we have not used it, we have used our own server for hosting the web server. We could also actually stream into Google API or Patribi for data logging. So we could leverage those kind of cloud services to store our data, which actually could drive the cost down even further, because these are our free services. The site selection, the project was done in collaboration with another company called Water Research. They do water drilling. So we use one of their boreholes, which is situated roughly the northeast of Mauritius, northwest, sorry. And we drop our sensor together with the pipe, the water pipe. The water level probe that we use is the most expensive component in the project. It's a German-made water probe. We could have used cheaper ones, but because this was our proof of concept and it's a learning exercise at the same time for us, we preferred to, because this thing actually gets immersed down and it's very difficult to remove. So if you have unreliable materials, it's a headache really to go and maintain it. So we choose one which is fairly expensive but very reliable. And these are my team working on the project, lowering the probe, doing the calibration, and installation of the solar panels. And everything is housed in an IP65 weatherproof box to make sure that, here in Mauritius we have cyclones. We are actually going into the cyclone season. So you need to make sure that the equipment is well protected. And this is the schematic that, can I just, this is the data logger, this is the microcontroller, this is the GPRS modem, and somewhere here you have the lithium battery that stores the electricity from the panel, and the charging equipment. This is our example of the results are available on this website, but it also generates PDF output, where you get the variations of the water level and the battery voltage. And we had to devise the software in such a way that it would actually monitor the amount of sunshine, because there might be days when you don't get enough sun. Then the equipment has to go into sleep mode. So the programming does that. It monitors how much power you have, and then eventually, if it drops below a certain threshold, it puts the equipment in sleep mode. And then it wakes up again once there is enough power. Of course, depending on budget, if you want to have to be able to stand more days without sunshine. Then you increase the size of the battery, you make the charge controller a bit more powerful. But we have calculated that with this device, the way it has been dimensioned, it can stand roughly 48 hours of like autonomy without sunshine before it goes into sleep mode. Now, what were the outcome of this project and what are the way forward for us? We have had a first commercial application locally. Of course, we would like to take this, to scale this to Africa, but before we go there, because this is kind of an experimental system, we want to try it here first to make sure that we really get the hang of it. And there is this company called Villa, which is an integrated resort in the south of the country. And they have a number of villas and hotels. And they have actually subscribed to this system, and they know that it's an experimental system. We are working with the electrical and mechanical engineering firm, which is Arrow Engineering, to actually install the probe in different boreholes that they have. And interestingly, also, they've come up with other requirements like monitoring of water pressure in pipes, because sometimes they have pipes which burst, and they want to be able to have that kind of information and have an automatic email or SMS so that they can intervene. The great thing about this is because it interfaces with any kind of analog signal. So basically, you could monitor anything that gives you a voltage. So this is the commercial side. Now we would like also to explore other applications of this project, and we are submitting a proposal to the Mauritius Research Council. That is the body here in Mauritius that funds research. They have a special grant called Collaborative Research and Innovation Grant, which they target entrepreneurs or private companies who wish to collaborate with research institutions to do capacity building and to develop new products. So this is actually a much larger grant than the FIRE grant, which will allow us really to extend the system. And we will be collaborating with the Mauritius Sugar Industry Research Institute to adapt this system to automated weather data collection systems. So, sorry.
Allô? Oui, bonjour. Oui, bonjour Marianne. Je peux te rappeler, je suis au milieu d'une présentation. Hein, je te rappelle dès que je...
So we would adapt it to collect weather data in different areas, because in some areas where they have to collect that data, it's not easily accessible. It's in isolated areas, so you have to collect temperature, wind, rainfall, and at the moment, it's if the interest in that is to actually reduce the need to send people to bring that data back. But I think that is I think I've used my 15 minutes. This was my project, and again, I'd like to thank you all and thank FIRE to have seeded that project, and we hope now to be able to take it further.
Thank you very much.
Questions?
Yes, do you have some questions for me? So our next presenter is Asaya. Opondo, who's going to present his project that is about integrated systems for continuous medical education.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I want to try myself. It's okay. So my name is Isaiah Opondo from Synergy Informatics in Kenya. This was a project that was partly funded by FIRE in a grant for 2013. Now the project is called Integrated System for Continuous Medical Education. Continuous medical education is just a part of the larger continuous professional development where professionals develop themselves. Professionals develop themselves as they practice in their business of area of practice. Now, we are hosting this project under ICPD Kenya, and it was developed in collaboration with the Medical Board. Now, Medical Board of Kenya is the body that oversees and regulates all medical staff in the country. Mode of content delivery is web, mobile web, and mobile app. It was first launched in 2012, November. Then, since then, it was on pilot mode. We were piloting the system until 2014, where at the beginning of this year, where it was now mandatory for every single practitioner within the country to use this system to track, monitor, and take their professional development. Now, partly, the initial grant was from World Bank, given through the government, ICT authority, and also funded by us, Synergy Informatics, and partly a very small chunk by Medical Board. And of course, FIRE came in when we were almost, the other grant was already running out and we were having no money to proceed on doing the project. This is how our platform looks like. We have all doctors' registry. They come into the system or the platform to register and take. So what we have as online activity is activities that they can take wherever they are, whether in Mauritius or UK or within the country in a place called Lodwar or Mandera, where we have issues of security. And there are also offline activities where we sit like this and a facilitator like me take you through something like now what I'm doing, and then after the end of the day, you earn some points. And those points are reported directly to the medical board in real time. Now, the reason why this was necessary was that at the end of the year, all the 9,000 doctors were supposed to submit a hard copy paper of what they did from January to October. So there was a lot of chaos, and we couldn't track who was doing the right thing, who was taking up the learning activities. And by that, it was very hard to know how many doctors complied, really complied, not those doctors who are saying to have complied, yet they did comply. That was one of the reasons why this was necessary. And so this kind of activity, online activities which are more like journals, were not being taken up by doctors then. So, and again, one of the biggest challenges that we had was that these offline activities were not offered to the doctors who are in the countryside. Mostly they were offered for doctors who are within the cities, that is Nairobi, Mombasa, and Kisumu. So if you know the geographical boundaries and the distribution of cities across our country, Kenya, then you'll be able to know where Mombasa, Nairobi, and Kisumu are. They are actually one at the coast, the other one is in the middle, and the other one is the far end, about 800 kilometers apart from Mombasa to Kisumu, but 500. So it was a big issue for most doctors to take this. Now, like I said, there was low uptake of CPD activities and sparse distribution. And again, there was nothing, no tool to be used for monitoring and evaluating the CPD because of the diversity of the providers. Now, the providers are the content provider for this particular exercise or activities. A specific objective were to deliver, to provide a convenient way of delivering the CPD and ease the licensing of these doctors, because it is a mandatory thing that every doctor must get a license every year. Then also to improve access nationally. I'll take you through this and you'll be able to realize how doctors who are not within the country, within the cities, are participating more on this than the other doctors who are within the cities. Of course, to improve evidence-based medicine. Evidence-based medicine is medicine that, you practice medicine based on what is on the ground at that particular time, and you need to learn it for you to get all, you need to learn it at the point of practice for you to be able to practice it. Now, like I told you, the direct beneficiary for this particular system were the healthcare providers, who are doctors, dentists, pharmacists, lab technicians, and nurses, and clinical officers. I don't know whether in your countries there are also clinical officers, but they are doctors who are diploma trained, so they provide the healthcare services. Then the regulatory body, in this case, Medical Practitioners Board, and others who are just coming up. Then CPD providers, the content providers. I didn't put in any of these, but one of them is Kenya Dentist Association, or the major hospitals. Then the direct beneficiaries, indirect beneficiaries, the Kenyan government and the population, the general population, like Reginald here and Bernard over there. I'll also show you how that works. Now, this is the impact of our system since 2012, and the biggest impact in 2014 when we launched it out. We have 4,115 currently active on the platform. According to the doctor's registry, which has not been cleaned for quite a long time, we have around 9,000 doctors. But the yearly active doctors, according to statistics, is that we've had ranging between 4,000 and 6,000 active doctors between 2011 and now. So by this, according to last year, that is 2013, we had around 6,000 active doctors. So it means that by this we are almost hitting the most active doctors. Active doctors to mean those who are practicing. Some have gone into research, some have gone into other things. Some are actually treating guys in Botswana or Lesotho, but not practicing in Kenya. So that is out of about 3,000 of them. Some of those have died. So we have that number. Then the CPD's activities that have been reported so far is 19,000. We have 145 providers in the who've come on board, and 1,500 activities that have been registered. Now, this is the way a presentation of a graphical presentation of how the registration occurs. If you look at the spiked part, it's almost at the point where there is the renewal, the call for renewal of licenses coming. So what we are trying to change is that this should be a steady thing, not just happening towards the renewal end when it is mandatory for each doctor to come in. And the activities uptake, you see it is the same trend. There is a lot of activity uptake at this point when the doctor is required to come in. So one of the reasons why this happens is because most activities are organized towards that end. But we are trying to change that so that the learning process is from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. And with this, of course, this is going to inform policies that are going to be implemented, as I'll show you later on. Now, this is what I was showing you, I was telling you about. If you look at the blue part of the line graph, the blue line graph, it is, we are tracking people from Nairobi and the other parts of the country in green. So you see that there is always a trend. Before the Nairobi, that is before 2014, the Nairobi was higher than the other parts of the country. Then you see the way the trend is. Lower here, though I didn't put a legend there, but these are the other cities within Nairobi, within the country. That is Mombasa, sorry. That is Mombasa and Kisumu and Eldoret. But the other part is now the larger parts of the country. So with this, it's now easy to tell that most doctors are active. I mean, most doctors who are active in our country are outside the cities. That is in learning. That's what I mean by this. And then, of course, like I said, the system is running on Android and internet. We've had a lot of guys coming in to renew their licenses through the system, which is very positive. And because this is a web application and the mobile application is also web-based, the extent to which CPDs are being taken is now spread out. And of course, we have analytics tools that the medical board can now use to evaluate the uptake of these across the country. Now, being able to use this kind of statistics, we helped the medical board to come up with a guideline that is being used to monitor these kind of activities. So the guideline now being put as part of the legislation, we can now easily monitor the system, monitor the uptake using the guideline that was developed and launched, I think, that was in May this year. So at least for now, things are very easy. You can tell how many doctors are practicing and who is not practicing. If you're not practicing, what are the penalties that you're supposed to pay? Now, this is some of the training sessions that we had with the doctors in Kiambu. Kiambu is one of our counties, and a session with the providers in Guru Nanak. Guru Nanak is one of the providers of the CPD content. In further developments, we are thinking of, not really thinking, but we've developed, though not complete, a case competition where we are attracting young doctors to come in and put their cases, the cases that they meet in the hospital, of course, protected information, and seeing how that can be securing that information. The doctors come in, give their information, people discuss, and then whoever wins in that particular competition is awarded. Then we are also trying to change the offline activities, which are which are full of content and information, into webinars, so that doctors outside the cities can also get this information. And because there has always been issues between doctors, medical doctors and the pharmacists, we decided to separate the pharmacists. So there is the bid for the pharmacists that is also coming up. It's actually being launched sometime either next week or early January. So the Pharmaceutical Society of Kenya, another part of this. Thinking of also adding some premium content for the doctors who, this is not free as my colleague would have wanted it to be, but we wanted it to make some money for doctors to incentivize some of them and also to provide CPD as a service for our brothers in Uganda who have been putting pressure on us to help them develop this. And thank you.
Doctors are among the most elite of the professions, very elitist.
Yes.
They tend to pass things down to their nurses and secretaries.
Yes.
So who is actually using this? The doctors, the nurses, or the secretaries?
The doctors. So what we learned in that is that the young doctors are very active in this. So that brought up the reason why we needed to go out. And that is one of the reasons why we approached FIRE for this. Because we knew that these doctors, the older doctors, are very hard to train and late in adoption. So what we did, we went out to them, met them and asked them again, what do you really want to change in this? And that's what brought in several changes into the system. So I think a week before I came here, a doctor was in my office with his Android phone, and he was asking me, an older doctor than you. So he was asking me, I said, how do I do this? And of course, we took him through, and he kept on calling after that, thank you for telling me how to do it. So we learned that it is easier to go to them. So we are changing that. It is not their secretary anymore. It is them, because now we are bringing in the online bit. The secretary is not going to answer the questions on the system. It is him. Yeah. But of course, you can tell, we are having a rough time with the old doctors. Yeah, and that's why we have to go out to them. Yeah.
Any other question? No? Thank you, Isaiah.
Thank you.
So, our next presenter is Bernard Adongo from Kenya, Nikohapa Limited.
And
let you present your project.
My name is Bernard Adongo. Niko hapa. Niko hapa is a Swahili word that means I'm here. So I'm just going to explain a little bit what it is. Customer engagement platform, it's a long word. What is customer engagement? It's very hard to tell, but imagine you go to a cafe and you get very, very good service. And you want to tell the boss of the waiter that I really enjoyed this thing. Or you get a cockroach in your food and you want to tell the whole world that these people are serving cockroaches instead of fish, seafood. But so, I mean, it's a system where the customer is able to talk with the owner of a business directly. Normally, you have those feedback forms that you fill at a cafe or wherever, and then you give it to the manager who doesn't want to be caught. So the owner of the business does not really know what it is. So you have the owner of a business, you have a manager, you have the staff, and then you have you as a customer. We are trying to change that so that the customer is at the top, and the owner of the business is able to listen to that feedback. So originally, this looks like a really big diagram, but originally it was just, I go to a cafe. In fact, this friend of mine, the co-founder, went to a cafe he liked, and he was looking to drink his coffee and tea. Then he found that it has turned overnight into a Chinese restaurant. So while he was drinking the soup of the noodle, I decided to come up with a system where he could actually text the feedback, his feedback, to the owner of a business, because the people who are really spoiling that business were the manager, who was not always there, and the waiters, who are very unresponsive. But it was a really, really great place for a cafe. So he said, okay, what if I could send a text? What if I could send some text to the owner of a business? So basically, that's how we started. But then we decided, okay, the owner of the business might listen, but do nothing. So this text, we also put it to the Niko Hapa place page. So every business, sorry, I'm not used to this touch stuff. Every business is able to get anyone online. If you go to nikohapa.com, you should be able to. Can I just do that, because I'm a bit nervous, so I'll take a little bit more time. Do you have internet? So this is a public website where you go, you want to find out about a certain business. These are some of our partners. Seriously?
It's okay.
So if you want to find out about a certain business, you can. We have some things called check-ins, where you send some feedback, we count it in, we call it a check-in. And we know, yes, that kind of business. Should I wait?
No, it's okay. Click again.
Huh?
Click again.
You're moving, just click it. Yeah.
So this is,
It's going.
this is a web 2.0. So if I hover like this, it should pop up something. But how do you hover on a flat screen? Okay. Yeah, so you see, people are checking in and giving in their feedback. What happens is Mambo Italia is offering 50% off if you check in 10 times. That is if you give your feedback or if you text some codes to our platform. We link those codes to them, so that information we basically provide them. When they log in, they are able to see that kind of information. Normally, if I log in, I can see what thumbs up is, or what is, if I hover, but I don't know how to hover on this.
Yeah, it's coming.
Can someone do, oh yeah, there it is. Yeah. So, I mean, people, all this kind of feedback. So imagine in Kenya, in Africa, the biggest thing about the internet, that we have lots of internet, we have lots of fiber now. Someone is putting 32 terabits inside Nairobi, but you don't have content, right? So you go and try to find out what is the best place for noodle here, but you don't know. But all this content can easily be generated by people. So we built a platform where even as you give that feedback, you can generate this content for the public. And that's why FIRE, I think, was excited about supporting us. Okay. Normally I use Alt-Tab, but how do you Alt-Tab on?
Just drag it out.
Then Alt. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so basically that's what it is. So by putting stuff on Niko Hapa page, we fill website with local content that generated by the customers. And also we built an app so that people could know where Niko Hapa our partners are. And we built them when we had about 40,000 Android phones in Kenya. And it was cool, it was nice. No one was really using it. Most of the people have been using text, 99% of the people. But the cool factor gave us a lot of marketing. We allowed people to be able to check in and give that feedback through mobile web. A lot of people had mobile web in Kenya at that time. Then we made a point of sale device, because in places where basically anyone can be a partner. So in places where old people go, they are like, how can I text this funny code? So we gave them NFC cards, and because we had this Android, Google produced this $200 tablet, a very, very cheap tablet which had NFC functionality. We built that up. We are engineers. Both my partner and I are engineers. So we are really excited about building stuff. And then we integrated with some M-Pesa providers. So when someone does an M-Pesa transaction, or I guess for you guys, it's a credit card transaction, there's an alert that goes to the person. So we take that alert and we direct to the system and we consider it a check-in because that person has had that business with that person, has had a transaction with that business. So we direct that information to the owner so that they have all these things. And also we add a social media part. If you check in, you can allow your check-ins to show on Facebook and Twitter. 300 or 400 of your friends will be able to know that you are at this cool, nice place. It also goes to a page. It also goes to the place page of the business. So it's great. So we are trying to create, to generate content. We're using different kinds of means. So, okay. This is how we do it. We built a system that printed unique codes that a customer had to text to our system. It was very. I think it's 1 shilling. So we have experimented with different kinds, with different amount. Now we are doing a 1 shilling. A 1 shilling thing. 1 shilling is maybe almost 1 cent of $1 US. But basically, what happens is, as a customer, you go and you get this on your receipt, stuck with a Nico Harper sticker. You text that system. Our system knows that this sticker was produced for Mambo Italia, and then directs that feedback to, and any other thing to, Mambo Italia, any other correspondence you have. Basically, that's it. We can also have the business talk to you, but I think that's on this side. So, at once, when we talk to a customer, if they agree, a partner, a cafe, if they agree, they already have online presence. Yeah, we bring them online. They have their own site at Nico Harper places, and then when their customers check in, it goes to Facebook and Twitter. It creates content for them, which they don't have to pay for. They pay for us. They pay us. I'll talk about that later. But the original idea was that they subscribe to our system. They get the customer feedback, which is crucial for any business. Every business depends on customer feedback. They get analytics. Most of the times you go to a cafe, the cafe owner does not know how many times you are there in a month, which is very important because most businesses make money, 70% of their money from the loyal customers. So these are the customers they should groom. But if they don't know who their loyal customers are, then they cannot really leverage them. So the analytics are very important. Messaging platform, of course, when you have checked in, they can send you a Happy New Year. They can send you Happy New Chinese Year. I mean, they can send you that kind of message. I mean, it's a way that they can engage. Rather than just going to a cafe, eating, and then going away, if you are at a certain level where you have actually interacted with the business, you want them to interact back with you. So that is the idea. Customer loyalty engine, as I showed you, you check in 10 times, you get a free coffee. So imagine you have two businesses. On one side, you're almost going to get your coffee. You're on your 10th check-in. On the other side, you're going to get nothing. You're basically going to make a decision to go to that business. So it's a loyalty engine, and it works. We built, because we had the technical thing, we just built a lot of things that we could easily build on top of that. So this is what value proposition we sell the customers. Okay, traction. Well, we thought we were going to be instant Bill Gates, not Bill Gates, the Facebook guys, and we almost made it. We were finalists at a competition. We acquired 60 place partners. We gained some angel investment, which is very, very difficult in Africa, but we did. We experimented with various business models. When we started, I think it was 2012, we were very young, and I mean, things were new, and we had to, so we used the angel investment to invest in that business. We also won the FIRE award, which gave us a lot of exposure. When I went back, we got that award. It was given in Bali. It was really, really nice. Some of you are there. We had an interesting time. And so we went back. We got 60 more places. That was in 2013. Was it 2013? 2013. Yeah, last year. Yeah. And then someone came, he had been to, he had studied in England, he had been there, he was a banker. He's a Zimbabwean, and he was going to South Africa. So when he came and he looked us up online, he talked to us, and he said, oh, why? I want to run this in South Africa. It would really work very well there. So we got some partnership in South Africa. Then when I was talking to some, then we centered our focus on transport sector, which I'm going to explain in a moment. Sorry. There. This is our South African partnership. This is, I think, the third place. This is Taffy, the guy who's there, and he's really having a blast. Apparently, the reception in South Africa is better than the one we had in Kenya. But I mean, he got 3 places inside 1 week, which is amazing. And also, we are talking with some of the franchises, which control 60 places. Some of you are South Africans, so I would not tell you what it is, but they do sausages, I think. Yeah. Now, transport sector. Why did we focus on the transport sector? It's very. Remember the way the business started was like, okay, we could do this, but then I use public transport a lot, and I realized that the feedback you give as a passenger can actually save lives. Kenya cannot employ a lot of policemen. The ones who are employed are grossly underpaid. So you get stuck anywhere you are. You can always get out. Yeah, you can always get out. You can. Getting a driving license is easy. You can go to the back street. You get it at 2,000 shillings, or you can do it the right way. Spend 15,000 shillings, and still you pay another 2,000 shillings to bribe the policeman who trains you. So, but we realize that giving feedback in this system can actually lower the rates of accidents. We have 3,000 people die on Kenyan roads every day. A lot of them are caused by public service vehicles. Now, remember, a public service vehicle, these are buses. We call them matatus in Kenya. These people are the most experienced drivers on the roads. So why do they cause 56% of the accidents in Kenya, the deaths? Because they're always in a hurry. They're always breaking small rules that lead to a lot of pain. 12,000 get injured every year. It costs 5% of the GDP. 2 to 9% is because I'm not so sure. These numbers are normally blown away, but 2% of GDP for a country that is growing is really bad. And you may think that Kenya is in a worse place. Kenya, this is the road, the number of deaths in 100,000 of the population. Kenya is here number 24. Below Ivory Coast, below Burundi, whatever, yeah? Sean. And South Africa, you can't imagine. You can't believe it. So, it's a big African problem that has to be fixed. Remember, these countries, there are a certain level of growth where policing is very low. You cannot employ, people are starving in the country, not in Nigeria, but you cannot employ a sufficient number of police. And there's a middle class that is growing. Huh? There's a middle class that is growing, that is pushing cars into the road because public transport is just too uncomfortable. It's too uncomfortable, it's inconvenient, it's unsafe. So we have to fix this problem one way or another. And so our old system came to the rescue. We rebranded, we call it My Ride to make it look nice. Originally, we called it Kijicho, which is the public eye. But after doing some experiments, we realized that people didn't like being watched. So we just rebranded recently. But basically, you can send a text. You are sitting in a matatu, in a bus. You can send a text to the owner of the matatu. Because if you complain to the police, the driver or the conductor is going to bribe the police. They have a standing order. They give them this amount of money every month. So will they even listen to you? But you can send, if 10 people complain to the owner of the PSV, they can easily lose their jobs. And the biggest problem with Kenya is, with Africa, is unemployment. These guys actually fear for their jobs so much that they would prevent all that kind of feedback from going to the owner of the matatu. It's very, very effective. And of course, it goes to the, I mean, it also goes to social media, so other passengers can find out about it. It goes to the authorities. If it is very, very severe, you can direct it that way. That's how we built it. But so this is the app, that we built an app because this year, about 200,000 Kenyans acquire Android phones. In July, it was about 230,000 Kenyans bought Android. Well, 20,000 bought Windows phones, other were Android phones. So they're buying really smart devices. And so we built an Android app that allows passengers to chat with each other, basically using the previous platform. And then they can also rate the public, they can also rate their buses. And then they can also share, they can send video, audio, because it's a smartphone. Audio, pictures, to basically, you catch someone breaking the law, you can send that information to the owner. And it's almost as good as evidence. So basically, this is what we have ended up building. Now, of course, we also have an SMS platform because, I mean, 60–70% of the people are still going to use SMS. On the backside, we built a complaints handling platform for the matatu operators. The government kind of made them. We have about 40,000 matatus. These are public service vehicles. They've been organized into 600 circles, companies. And we've actually urged the government to have them maintain a complaints handling platform because it's very, very effective in policing. So they have this. This portal. This one we had for our Nico Hapa partners, but now we have this portal where they are able to get that feedback and be able to respond to it. And they can tag the complaints to a driver and to the vehicle. So we need all matatus to have this. I went into inside a bus yesterday, and I realized that in Mauritius, all buses, at least the buses had their registration number. It's a very, very simple thing. Have the registration number inside. Someone can easily send feedback or complain on social media about that specific matatu. Our system keeps that information, and anyone can go and search and know the history of that matatu. In terms of traction, we got some British Council grant to do the pilot. I mean, to do a prototype. We built some prototype. We went through. We've gone through a first pilot. We got a lot of feedback, and we are just ready to go into now. We've been building the feeding back into the system, and so we want to kind of do a small launch. We've got some partnership with the National Transport and Safety Authority. They helped us with the regulation, and we hope to make money by letting the transport companies pay subscriptions to it. These are some of our strategic partners. The National Transport and Safety Authority, they have been very helpful. National Road Safety Trust, that is headed by Safaricom, the biggest operator, is very, very interested in working together with the NTSA to roll out. They did something called Toa Sauti 2 years ago. That was similar, but it didn't have the engaging side. So when you talk to them about the idea, they were like, okay, we are going to support you to roll it out. But the conversation has taken a bit, like 6 months or so. It's taken some time. So, but the National Road Safety Trust includes Safaricom, chaired by Safaricom, but the Media Owner Association, we need media, and some Total, the people who sell beer and all that. So, I'm so sure I had a FIRE logo. No, this is the wrong presentation. But anyway, thank you so much. Any questions?
Can
Yes.
I just ask that you clarified
Yeah.
that it is not 3,253 per day, but per year for the days.
Oh, this one?
Yeah. Yeah.
This is a daily thing
No, it's
in Africa.
for enough.
No. About 10 people, 9 people die every day on Kenyan roads. This is an annual figure in Kenya.
Sorry, I wanted to know the illiteracy rate and how they fit into this.
Okay, in Kenya about 30 or 40 million out of, we have a population of 40 million, we have 30 million people with phones. So, and 65% of the buses are in Nairobi, and Nairobi has a lot of very, very high literacy. So we think it's one of the things that's going to work, but I mean, there are still other interventions in terms of road safety. Literacy rate is it's relatively high.
It's 94.
94.
But I guess you're asking how they are going to make use of that data.
No. I wanted, the literacy rate is very low, so it's okay.
Oh, okay. In other African countries? But you need the people who travel, the people who take public transport are fairly literate, and the people who make policies, they can use this information to basically do that. And also, you have to remember that when the point disappeared.
It's okay.
Now like TripAdvisor.
All right, thank you, Leonard.
Yeah.
So you're becoming the TripAdvisor of Kenya transport.
Okay, that's what I used in the other presentation. That you guys didn't see. But it's basically the TripAdvisor for public transport. You're right.
My question is about how it will be competition against Foursquare, because it's also somehow.
Foursquare doesn't work with SMS.
Yeah, this is the big difference between you and Foursquare, because you have the SMS support now.
Yeah, we are hoping Foursquare can buy us out.
na dominate conference. Yeah, that's the one.
No, it's very for you. Just 6% literacy rate is good. You said that.
Yes, so we can start with this one first. Just put it on pause here. This is forward. Yes, forward. It's really like okay.
You can just press that one to go
to the video.
Yes. Okay.
That's fine. So, good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Good morning.
My name is Reginald. I come from Kenya. And my project is about cybersecurity, especially among young people. The reason why we started with this project was because last year, some young maverick people became presidents of our Kenya, escaping ICC. So when they got together, they became very excited about making Kenya a better place. But in doing that, their policies are always wrong. So we started questioning them whether they were really living on this earth or living on another planet. one of the things they suggested was that every child in Kenya should have a laptop. Then we asked, what is going to be on the laptop? Then we realized there was a lot of problems that need to be sorted out if you are going to give a young person a laptop. One of them will be the program they're going to use, whom they're going to communicate with, the kind of data they're going to access. And one of the interesting parts was that in Kenya we don't have a control system that if I send my brother Opondo a text message, he can reject it. Now, if an adult cannot control that, what about a young person? So this inspired us to start thinking about research in schools. And this was just before the elections when we were thinking about it. But now when the elections took place and these young maverick fellows became our leaders, we started now wondering what will happen. So we realized that they were going to give young people over 1 million laptops. And then we realized that Kenya was ranked 7th in cyber security. I think now we are 5th. I think we are somehow improving. And then we realized that if we introduce this program in primary schools, we can start bringing some kind of support to the young people so their minds grow with the new technology rather than everything being bashed onto them and being controlled by an outside world they don't know. And if the outside world is going to control them, means that somebody can actually send a text message to a young fellow and say, can we meet for coffee at this place? Can we go to this place? And we realize that is also very, very possible because children are beginning to follow somebody just without knowing. Oh, let's meet for coffee. And then they tell him, Mom, Dad, can you drop me here? You know, it's a Kentucky Fried Chicken. It is at Wimpy. Can you just drop me there? I say, where are you being? No, a friend of mine. Send me a text message and you're going to buy me some nice things, you know. Then the children just start disappearing. So that was beginning to worry us. And there's a small clip here that shows even an adult who has been a TV presenter being bullied without even knowing, without having any control. Let me just see if it will work. Yes. Patricia, I need your help here. I need to... there. Yes.
I got a phone call from a friend asking me what it is I had done, and I didn't really know what that meant because I was home sick that day. And then I came into work the next morning, and around 4:30 a.m., I went on my Twitter and saw a bunch of notifications and stuff of something I hadn't even talked about. And then I figured it out when you see the trending, because every morning I look at what's trending, what I can use on my show, what I can't, and there's my name spelled incorrectly. Yeah. So yeah, that's how I found out. It was a shock to me. I didn't understand why I was trending, because there was nothing, I wasn't even on air the day before. So I didn't understand what had happened. So I guess that's what shocked me. I didn't know what was happening. Yeah. Originally, when I found out I was trending, I clicked on the link and I saw what was going on. But then after that, I didn't read the tweets. I didn't think I needed to read the tweets. It's too much negative energy, and I don't have time for that. Bullying has always been something that has happened to other people to me. And this was, I think, the worst form because it's people I don't know, who don't know me, who've never seen me, who don't know what I'm about. And just...
So in other words, have you control on who follows your tweets? So if you don't have control, means that, yeah, the young people are also in danger. And this is a very famous celebrity, 98.4. She's a presenter. But because she's a presenter, she's in the public domain. Everybody's sending her different messages. Oh, you look ugly, you're too fat, you're too thin, you're too what. And then you absorb all this pressure and you start to worry, oh, so what's going to happen to me? So in one of the slides, what we did, the survey around the world, found that many people, when they're told you are too fat, in the evening they're drinking their heads off and then they commit suicide. And many of these cases are taking place. Just now as we were having this conference, somebody was thrown a bad word and he fainted. Now he's in hospital in a coma, just because someone said a bad word to him. So people are very sensitive to these things, and we need to be very much aware of. Yes. Yeah. Okay. So our program is helping young people from the early age as they move up with this internet technology. They can be able to know what to do. This is an example we found out in different parts of the world. People have committed suicide because of being bullied. I found this particularly kind of, mind-boggling, an appetite, blonde-haired, blue-eyed Ohio high school senior who commits suicide after a nude photo of herself she sent to her boyfriend was distributed around the school. And this is what we found a lot in Kenyan schools. Like we went to one school called Ngara Girls, and we just threw the question. After watching that video clip, we threw the question to the girls. And the girls had a lot to say. In fact, instead of being there for 1 hour, we were there for 3 hours. Because we were sharing some of their own experiences. You quarrel with your boyfriend. Then because he's so annoyed with you, he posts everything of yours on the net. And then you sit back looking and wondering who else out there has seen things about me that I didn't want to be seen. So you take drugs or you decide to take poison and you kill yourself. So there are so many of these cases happening around. So our mission is to empower the children with online safety knowledge to recognize and optimize their full potential using technology. And when we were going through the project, this is what we followed, and we found the narrative part very inspiring. And we are trying to develop a program, and if any of you can help us, we'll be very happy. Of course, we have been in touch with our friend in Tunisia, who was very passionate about helping us to come up with a program that can help us capture some of these experiences and share with schools. Our methodology was to organize workshops, especially in schools. And most of the schools in Kenya would prefer weekends, so like Sunday afternoon, when nothing is happening in the schools, they'll call at the school and organize these workshops. We wanted to also understand whether schools actually were having internet facilities or not. Most of the schools did not. And that's why we keep on calling our president Maverick. They're there to make politics, not to make policies. So we want to see that this program can develop very good policies which can be effected into the education system to help our country start looking through mitigating measures. There are other similar projects targeting industry operators and the business community on cybersecurity run by various organizations. For example, some tech industry bodies, organize security responses. Now I'm very glad to meet my two Kenyan friends here. We are going to do business together because I see your programs can help us create a hub of communication, linkages. The young fellows, when they're at home, and maybe they're bullied by their parents, they can communicate to you and we capture that data for ourselves. Or they're staying at home with an uncle or an auntie who's always pinching them and beating them up, that we can use also that. Because this is the kind of information that goes to the web and they start communicating, but they don't know whom they're communicating with. But if we can be of help, that can support the Kenya government, it would be very nice to do that. So to create awareness from the age of 6 onwards, we found it very useful. But at the moment, we are beginning to see the people who really understand what is going on are from the age of 10. Though the lower age is important at the moment they receive laptops, but from the age of 10 is very important. Because now they're beginning to own mobile phones, they're able to call their parents, they're able to say where they are, they're able to have small meetings with their friends. Some of them are able to organize small outings, perhaps organized by themselves, their parents, family, friends, schools. But some of them also just say, Dad, Mom, can you drop me at the swimming pool? And then when they go to the swimming pool, they're not going to swim. That's a dropping off point. Then they walk and go somewhere else and access information they're not supposed to access. So when we started this project, in fact, we even started before the FIRE grant came in, because we realized the Kenya education system starts in January and it goes on until October. So we started doing our survey and going to schools and sharing that information with the headmasters, head teachers. Some schools were very good. Some would just say, please come tomorrow, or can you help us form a club? But some, especially the high top class schools like Precious Blood, Kenya High, they would like the Kenya government to write you a letter giving you permission to go there. And we found that's a very good thing to do, because it will give us a platform for policy development. So we are working now with the Ministry of Education, Ministry of Culture, Ministry of in Science and Technology, to see how we work together to bring out this information. The sustainability bit is beginning also to pay dividends, because we believe the Kenya government can start giving us funds to generate this information. When we go back, we have a meeting with the Ministry of Education in January to help us see how we can collaborate so this becomes part of the syllabus. We do co-curriculum activities in schools after school so that we can interact more with students, and also to create what we call cyber clubs in schools, where young people can learn different programs that can help them develop their careers, but also being aware of the dangers that are hidden in there. And in some of the schools, especially those ones which are in the slums, it was very difficult to communicate. Even they don't have electricity. So we are hoping that we can get some equipment, like generators and good machines that can help us relay this information. But that's not to say that in the slums there are no cyber cafes. In fact, the slums of Nairobi are very advanced. While I wouldn't have a satellite dish, in the Uganda slums they're there. Then you start asking, how did you get this? Then you come to realize that the people who live in the slums, not everybody is poor. The slums is just a resting place. But the real home is in the rural areas. So if you went to work in the slums and you said, oh, everybody here is very poor, you have to be very careful, because you need to identify who among them is really poor and need help. So we have also come to learn that the slums have different types of people that need to be addressed. So sometimes we use interesting pictures to capture attention, especially the young fellows. When they see this kind of a picture, we spend a few minutes discussing it. Then they say, oh, it's very exciting. You can imagine it's yourself. How do you protect yourself? And then trying to develop a program that will go into different areas, especially in the area of communication. And in brief, that's our project. Any feedback? Yes, please.
I wanted to ask how you said you're going to be working with the ministry.
Yes.
Is that being challenging for you, or is it quite forthcoming?
You know, we're beginning to learn that it depends on whom you meet in the ministry. Well, at first we met the permanent secretary, and he was, oh, no. That's the work for the government, not for you. But when we met the cabinet secretary, it was very, very receptive. Said, no, we have to have this. In fact, I'll present it to the cabinet discussion on a Thursday, and then we get the president's signature, and then we start working with you, because it's a good idea. So I'm sure I will get the support from the Ministry of Education. How long?
How long did it take for you from the time you started approaching them?
Yes.
The time that found
at first, that was in July when we made contact, and then they told us, so it can't work. So we got very discouraged. But then when we sat down and we realized the cabinet secretary was coming to visit a certain school, we took advantage of that. And we talked to the headmaster to allow us to give a small presentation in front of the cabinet secretary. And immediately his eyes were opened up and said, oh, this is a good program. Come to our office, we talk. So went to the office, had a little discussion, and then gave us an appointment for January. Yeah. So we hope by March, when we get the second grant of FIRE, double the amount, then we can now. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Reginald.
Thank you.
Normally we should have a break now, but I'm really running out of time. but would you after the break? Very short, but we need to make a very short break. So we can do it now, but please, yeah, be back in 10 minutes maximum, please. Maybe, yeah. Don't worry.